Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and our review of the USMNT's 5-1 win over Uruguay in Tampa. Florida giving us the right kind of crazy on a Tuesday night. Good to see. It's a marquee win from Mauricio Pochettino's side, albeit a friendly win, but exactly what this team needs heading into 2026. My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, hello the Taylor Rockwell.
Hello there, Ryan Bailey. What a day it was. The U.S. looking comprehensively excellent in their smashing win over Uruguay, but maybe the headline of the day is Graham Ruthven actually smiling, actually feeling this feeling of, I think it's called joy? I don't know. I don't know what could possibly be happening.
Hello, emotional expressing person, Graham Ruthven. How are you?
Hi, Ryan. Have you heard the news? Have you heard the news? Alex Freeman might be starting at the World... No, I'm not kidding on. We're not leading with that. Scotland are going to the World Cup. All three of us will have a team at the World Cup next year. Look at us. It finally happened. Can't believe it.
In your face, Joe. Teams. You don't get to root for the U.S. anymore.
Woo! Arizona didn't qualify, Joe. Sorry about that.
Curacao fan. Let's
Three
go.
teams,
Let's
four
do
of
it.
us. I'm already
Joe,
tripping over my words. This is going to be an interesting episode.
Hey, Ryan. I'm ecstatic. I've had multiple people reach out and tell us that we need to be leading with the Scotland chat at the beginning of a USMNT show after the U.S. just had one of their greatest performances ever, and we can't deny them this. Graham, I am truly ecstatic for you. I was so moved by the potential for Scotland to qualify that I watched a huge chunk of that game yesterday. I caught all the theatrics. I was telling my wife about this on a walk yesterday. I said, I think this is one of the best soccer games of the year, just in terms of the actual game itself. And when you add the stakes to it and the fact that we love Graham very much, it's one of the great games ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wild. Like, simply the game that I waited my entire lifetime for. I'll never experience anything like that again. Not just to qualify for a World Cup, but the way that the game was, and to do it in, like, the least Scottish way possible, where when it goes back to 2-2, everyone, I've seen that film so many times before, everyone in that stadium is like, here we go again. And I've no idea how we did it. But one way or another, we just were like, nah, not this time. And we just pulled it out. And some of the three of the goals, certainly two of the goals, are two of the best ever Scotland goals of all time. So
Which two, Graham? Which two? The bicycle kick, surely, and then the Tierney one, right?
McTominay. Well, I mean, Tierney's for the drama. That's when I lost it. Like, when Tierney's goal went in, that was 27 years of frustration and pain and everything came out, and I ended up 6 rows and soccer stuff. Yeah, I kind of stand at the aisle in the North Stand, which is where the Tartan Army are. I somehow ended up, I didn't even realise at the time, I was 6 rows, by the time everything settled, I was 6 rows down and was next to other different people, and it was nuts. So that's when I totally lost it. But I think the McTominay goal and the Kenny McLean one are just, they're going to be played forever as two incredible Scotland goals. And I posted a vlog on TSS Plus on the Patreon, tried to capture as much as I could, including me blubbering a couple times. Yeah, it was just the moment that I and Scotland fans had waited almost 3 decades for.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, to be clear, this is a USMNT show, but we do have to lead off with this Scotland win 4-2 over Denmark for Scotland to qualify for the World Cup for the first time in 28 years. As noted, all of the hosts will have representation at the World Cup. This was, Graham, as you said, an unbelievable night of soccer. Now, we all know Scotland's a dreadful country full of dreadful people, yourself included. But I was genuinely very, very happy for Scotland. I've never cheered Scotland goals before, but I was on my feet, shivers down the spine stuff this game was. Because for me, like, soccer's particularly international soccer, is about emotion and it's about narrative. And knowing the effect that game will have on an entire country last night and today, probably through the rest of the week, and having that universal uplift, that makes it all worthwhile. That makes international soccer all worthwhile to me, and I think you should be very proud of what Scotland have done there. It's incredible. And listener, you do have to, if you're not subscribed to our Patreon already, patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Graham's made the price of subscription worth it alone with his video from Hampden Park last night. So well done. One of the best international games I've seen in years. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, the narrative was strong, and Ryan, we all know that you're a fan. You're an ultra of Narrative FC above all else, so I'm pleased that you enjoyed the game, and we had your moderate support last night. There's a level to this, I'm sure, but I've barely slept, as you can probably tell by the way I've started this episode, just because I've been scrolling social media of all the videos of people in pubs, and one of the great little things is everyone had their phone out to capture the full-time whistle. And by accident, everyone in that stadium captured Kenny McLean scoring from the halfway line. So you've got about 50,000 different angles of one of the best Scotland goals of all time. And so, I'm sure it'll take me a long time to sift through all the different videos and different perspectives.
I would like to register a complaint with ESPN. I was in a restaurant/bar last night, and they had the highlights on ESPN. They showed all the goals except for the halfway line one at the end. Why?
That's
devastating. That goal, Graham. I felt Taylor actually a little bit like you, because I think you do a great job of zeroing in on details that I don't notice in games. Like you and Graham had a great analysis of the scrum in the U.S. Paraguay game. It's just one example, or Taylor's famous penalty shootout diagrams, right? You do a great job of that, and I often don't key in on that stuff. I felt a little bit like you, because Graham, Scotland are up 3-2 in this game, and they're trying to see out the result. You're mentioning people pull out their phones and they're recording, anticipating the final whistle. There were multiple moments where Scotland had a chance to like dribble the ball into the corner, and wind down the clock, and they just clipped the ball out of bounds, or they just lost the ball. And it happened so many times that when that fourth goal goes in, the one from the halfway line, I'm thinking, no, not again. Just keep the ball, dribble it to the corner. I think it was like a 2v1 or a 2v0, basically.
It was like 3v1, dude.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Crazy.
And I almost like yelled at my computer, like, what are you doing? And then I saw how the ball was flying and where it was headed. And I was like, well, I'm a stupid idiot. Never mind. Ignore me.
I just want to echo, Joe, I'm right there with you, because when they win that ball back high, I was like, oh no, he has too many options. He could play left, he could be right, he could take the defender on. Like, there's so many things to do. What's he going to do? Oh, no, why is he winding up? This is the worst thing you could do. Oh, it's the best thing he could do. It's the most wonderful thing he could do. It's the most joyous thing you could do. It was incredible.
I think it was actually a clearance, to be honest. I don't think no, it was definitely shooting. Everyone in that stadium was shouting, corner flag, including Steve Clark. The BBC showed that after the game. He's shouting corner flag. Thank goodness Kenny McLean ignored everyone and gave us that moment.
There's a genuine, quarter second when the ball bounces, and I swear you can hear the whole stadium start to hate Kenny McLean, because I think for a moment they think he's put this wide, and now they're going to get one last chance, and then it bounces in. But it's like a slight delay in the celebrations, more than I would have expected, and I think for a moment he was public enemy number 1, and then he became public hero number 3, 4? I'm not sure where he is in the ranks of this team, but he's up there for sure.
If you watch the replay, everyone in Hampden is either stood, not celebrating, or sitting down in their seat until the moment that ball crosses the line, because we have been there before. Yeah. We have been there so many times. We need to see the ball in the back of the net before we celebrate, and celebrate we did.
Graham,
it was incredible.
For people listening to this as it comes out, we're recording this Wednesday morning, the 19th. Is it Friday vibes in the entire country of Scotland? Like, is everybody just kind of taking it easy today? Do you feel like everyone called in sick? What's the situation?
So I dropped off Sophie this morning at school on zero sleep, and everyone that I encountered was genuinely smiling, and there's a couple of guys that I talked to there, and we're going to the games and go to the games, and I know what a revelation that people were smiling. You can just tell it's total Friday vibes.
Men were greeting other men. It was unprecedented.
Wow.
Yeah, and I managed to get Lucy to wear a Scotland shirt to present her radio show this morning as well. So everyone's a victor here.
Miracles do happen.
Yeah. I did notice, Graham, in the celebrations, USA chants ringing around Hampden Park as well. That's probably something that hasn't happened ever.
Yeah, and Mexico and Canada bit was really quiet. You had to strain hard to hear that.
I thought it was weird in the video that everyone's chanting USA, USA, and Graham was just going Donald Trump. That felt very, very odd, like a very particular statement you're making there, Graham.
Yeah.
You and Cristiano Ronaldo, apparently.
Yeah, we're just trying to ensure that the beer supply is going to be plentiful next summer. You guys better prepare.
Yeah. Imagine if Ireland qualify as well. What a time to be alive that will be.
Graham,
indeed.
How many Scots are going to be unprepared for 9% IPAs?
Oh, a lot. I mean, to be fair, we survived Germany, where it's a similar sort of situation. There was a government warning, genuinely, for Scotland fans to watch out for the strength of the beer. So we handled that. Maybe that's what explains our poor performance on the pitch. So let's keep the players off that 9% IPA.
Very good. Well done again, Graham. We need to actually hurry this episode up because you've got to get on the phone to the bank to remortgage the house to start getting those Scotland tickets budgets in place. So congratulations once again. But why don't we switch gears to another phenomenal win? USA 5, Uruguay 1. 9 changes, Joe, from the team that beat Paraguay in this one. Dest and Fries were the survivors from the Paraguay game. Seb Berhalter with that great opener. Alex Freeman with the header in the 20th. Austin Trusty capping off that lovely team goal for 3-0. Diego Luna getting involved for 4. Uruguay pulling one back with the second best overhead kick of the day, shall we say, and then the late one from Tander Tessman to make it 5 as well. This marking the first time in US history they've scored 5 goals against a team that has either won a World Cup or any team from South America. ESPN redeeming itself with that stat there. But Joe, obviously a big result for the US here, and a turnaround from the Copa America group stage game when the US last faced Uruguay, and a pretty full strength Uruguay team this was as well. So good.
Very good. Yeah, no Valverde, no Nunez. Really, this was a very good Uruguay team. This was the stronger of the teams that Bielsa put out for the October window after they drew with Mexico in the first game of the window. This wasn't just redemption for the Copa America result, although it doesn't quite qualify as that, I don't think, because it's a friendly. But more than that, I think this is the latest sign that the U.S. is heading in the right direction under Mauricio Pochettino. We spent a lot of time criticizing Pochettino and his approach to things like the Gold Cup and a lot of the players that he's given minutes to along the way. I think a lot of that criticism was fair and still is fair when players like Weston McKennie are missing for dubious reasons. At the same time, if we're going to criticize the guy, we got to give credit to the guy and his players. This was an excellent U.S. performance, and we can dive deeper into many aspects of it. But the U.S. were dominant in a game against a far closer to full-strength Uruguay team than a full-strength U.S. men's national team, despite whatever Pochettino wants to bristle at in his post-game pressers when he's asked very reasonable questions. This was one of the great U.S. performances ever, certainly that I've ever seen, and I think a whole lot of players did themselves a little bit of good when it comes to their chances to making that World Cup squad.
So, Taylor, what did you make of this victory? Was there anything different we saw here, apart from obviously some of the personnel on the field, but anything to give you more hope?
For me, there was a commitment to pretty clearly what Pochettino wants this team to do, occasionally almost to their detriment, because there are moments, Aiden Morris especially, but Seb Berhalter once or twice, are have the ball coming into their feet from Freese or one of the center backs, and they are just playing it automatically wide, and a couple different times it is intercepted or nearly intercepted, but they just kind of carry on, and then they press and win it back, and then they keep going. And it felt to me like they were doing what was asked of them, that was kind of what the system has required or what Pochettino has asked that position to be. Even if it's a little bit risky, they still kept doing it. And then with the press, I thought you could see the whole team really bought in to just aggressively winning the ball back, hunting in packs, swarming, and it would be a tackle that they would half win the ball, and then Uruguay would get it back, then there'd be another tackle, and then it would be a 50-50 ball, and then they'd tackle again and win that one. And it just felt like they were really up for it from the jump. And lastly, when they did win the ball back, they played really quickly. They made fast decisions. Sometimes it was 1v1 dribbles, but a lot of the time it was quick passing sequences. Very rarely was it just sort of putting the ball on and waiting for people to open up. It felt like there was an intent to play fast and make Uruguay uncomfortable on both sides of the ball, and I think they executed perfectly. I'm kind of at a loss on this one, to be totally honest, because as Joe said, it's not a full-strength Uruguay team, but it's not far from it. And even the players that come in are very, very class players. And so to see this team effectively ripped apart, to see Marcelo Bielsa have no answers and look forlorn for an entire half of this game, to see Uruguay be so frustrated that they get a red card, there's just lots of petulance in this game. I went from sort of liking them as a neutral team and rooting for them as an underdog to actively wanting them to lose. I will never cheer for Rodrigo Bentancur again. He knew what he was doing. And then to get up and be like, oh, what? That's not even a card. It's like, dude, you tried to break a guy's leg. Get out of here. I no longer have any love for you.
Your foot's still on your leg.
He's like, what? I didn't do anything. And then it was amazing to see him and Pochettino. I forget, the cachet Pochettino has, plus I'm assuming that he managed Bentancur at Spurs. I could be wrong, but I think to see Pochettino be the one to go over and talk to him about what just happened and everybody sort of be okay with it, I think in another scenario of that being a U.S. coach going to have a word, it doesn't go very well. But I think Pochettino has that respect. The U.S. has my respect. Uruguay less so.
Yeah, and everything that you outlined there, Taylor, in terms of the dynamic of the game, that's surely not what anyone was expecting when the lineups come out. Because when the lineups come out and we see it's 9 changes and it's the B squad, if we can call them that, of this USMNT roster, I was very worried that the US was just going to get ran over the top of and outfought and outplayed by what looked like on paper a far stronger Uruguayan team. And what we got was the complete opposite of that, especially in the first half, when the US were just so aggressive and they took risks with their attacking play, which is one of the things when things were going quite badly wrong for the US. That was one of the real weaknesses. One of the things you would see game after game was just how risk averse players would be in playing forward. And that just was not the case at all in this game. And I must say, I'm really not sure how much Uruguay, once this game goes 2-0, it feels like, I don't know, Uruguay, they were bad in this game. Like, as good as the US were, I thought Uruguay were bad. And
Agreed.
there were periods of this game where, particularly in the sort of second half of the first half, if that makes any sense, they're just going through the motions. Like, there's no intensity, there's no energy to their play, and that's when the US sort of accelerates away from them, and it's 4-0 at half-time. But this was a team that showed they can be a lot better than I think any of us thought was the case. The other caveat is, and I mean this genuinely, I don't mean this as sort of like a leading question, I don't know how much of this actually matters. Like, this isn't the US team that is going to start the World Cup. And so I think if it had been 2 or 3 changes, but it's largely the same team, it's the same framework, you think, okay, if this is how it pans out, a couple of these players have really pushed themselves into contention for starting spots here. But when you have so many changes to the team, it's difficult to know what to take from it and what is just like, was this just a chaos game that went the USA's way? Not that I'm trying to bring it down or anything.
No, it's a great point, Graham, and I've been thinking about something similar, not just because of the lineup, but also because of how the U.S. created most of their goals, which is on set pieces. 4 of these goals stem directly from set pieces. And you know who wasn't on the field in this game? Christian Pulisic. And you know who takes all the set pieces when he is on the field? Christian Pulisic. And you know who's not great at taking those set pieces? Certainly not as good as Sebastian Berhalter or John Tolkien, who took both of them in this game. Ryan's going to get there. Or Gio Reyna or Max Arsene in the last game. Go ahead, Ryan. What's the answer?
Christian Pulisic.
This guy's good. Mark and Kelly's kid, right? I mean, it's just a delight. That's a huge thing, right? The U.S. cannot count on set piece revenue with Pulisic on the field in the same way they can when Berhalter is on the field, especially. We saw it in the Gold Cup where Berhalter and Richards were linking up, or more notably, Christian Pulisic just wasn't there and the U.S. had set piece success. And we see it again in this game and in the last game where I wasn't on that show, but the set pieces were good in that game as well. So it's hard to tell how much of this is going to carry over. I'll do one more caveat also, because again, this should be all positive stuff. Yeah, Taylor, you go.
Is it a caveat unrelated to that, or can I?
It's not
also
related
jump
to
in
set
with
pieces. So go for it.
Well, I want to get into how much this like matters and how much like impact this will have.
Okay, let me finish that.
Go ahead.
The other thing in this game, we know some things that Bielsa likes to do, right? Bielsa likes to be man oriented in how his team defends, which is to say he doesn't defend like most coaches defend. And if you watch this game back, maybe if you didn't catch it the first time, you'll see that Uruguay are going man to man almost all over the field, with the exception of one player where they didn't mark. Usually it was Austin Trusty, and they left. Often it was Ronald Araujo free in the back to go and be the break glass in case of emergency defender. So they weren't defending zonally, and not just in their press. They were not defending zonally almost anywhere on the field. And the U.S. ripped that to shreds. And that's to their credit, 100% to their credit. The U.S. looked very well prepared to take down this specific opponent, and that's all you can ask. So I want to be clear about that. But also, when we're talking about how much this mattered, which is another way to say that is how much of this is going to carry over. That's another synonym question, I suppose. I don't know exactly how much of this carries over, because the game plan for this game against an Uruguay team that defends in a man-oriented way is going to be very different than one where you're attacking against a team that is much more zonal. So the U.S. conquered this team, and that's all you can ask for in a game like this. But that is a bit of a question mark moving forward. Taylor, go ahead, because I think where you want to take this is a great way to take it.
Well, I think it goes back to a thing you mentioned in the very beginning, Joe, and it's Pochettino's comments in the presser when he's asked about like basically playing a second string side, and he responds, I think it was pretty forceful. I don't want to be negative, but I hate that no regular players. What does that mean? It's the USA playing. It's the national team. Stop with that mindset. I hate to talk in this way. It's so disrespectful. It's so disrespectful because I think we need to give credit to all the guys that today were involved. And I thought about that quote a lot last night and this morning because I was trying to figure out like what exactly is he trying to get at? Because we know coaches don't like being told what they've done. They do not like journalists implying that they understand their tactics or approach. And I thought it was that at first. I think in reality, the thing Pochettino, my best takeaway is that he's really trying to drive home that if you're in this team, you're in this team. And if you're not, you're not. And so there are no guaranteed starters. There are no first teamers, quote unquote. If you're starting in the team, you're in the first team. Whether or not he actually means that, whether or not he would truly leave McKennie or Pulisic at home, I don't really believe. I don't really know for sure, but I doubt he would. But I think all he is trying to do is cement the idea that you have to come in and perform. And so Pulisic, when he comes into the next camp, probably better practice some set pieces and look pretty good on them in training, or maybe he is not taking them, and maybe it is Berhalter starting. And if it is Berhalter starting, who sits on the bench? And is it Weston McKennie? And I think it does open doors in a way that I think I am comfortable with. It's not just trying things to see what sticks. It genuinely feels like he is trying to build, and has been trying to build, competitiveness and a ruthlessness to this team, and fundamentally an idea that you have to buy into what I want and play the way I want and play the way we play as a team. And if you do, we will succeed. And if we do, you'll stay in the team. And I think that is what he's driving at. And I am good with that, even if I'm not sure how genuine it truly is.
Yeah, that quote is designed to cultivate competitive tension right within the squad, which is a process that he's been on since the day one, since he's come in. Certainly since the March window, where obviously that was a bit of a disaster, and it's working on this basis. And I asked the question, how much of this actually matters, and that's where it could matter a lot. I often think that the real indicator, the real tell of a culture within a team is when you get the B team players coming into a team and the principles remain the same, and there might be a drop off in execution, but the way that they play, the intensity, the energy, the general spirit of the team remains the same. And we've now seen that from the US over more than one window when changes are made, and so that's where this could mean a lot. Also, the US is going to need genuine depth if they're going to make a run at the World Cup. There's an extra round of games, and these games come thick and fast, like every 4 days once you're in tournament mode. So that was a genuine question. Like, this might matter a lot. It might also not matter a lot, and so that's what made it difficult to really analyse what the true impact of a 5-1 win over Uruguay, which you would ordinarily say, wow, absolutely incredible, that's the statement win. I'm just holding myself back from reaching that conclusion.
Okay. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll dig into this performance even more, look at some of the individuals involved. Much more coming after this break. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to our review of the US's 5-1 win over Uruguay. Joe, we had a couple of big performances on the field in this one. We had Mr. Berhalter stepping up, Alex Freeman stepping up in this one. Who impressed you?
Yeah, before I answer that question, I do want to run through the lineup because we mentioned all the changes, but just to set the stage before we dive into individuals, it was Matt Freese in goal. The U.S. defended in a 4-4-2, so I'm going to read this out in the defensive shape. It was Alex Freeman defending as a right back. It was Mark McKenzie next to him in the middle of the back line. Austin Trusty as that left-sided center back in the back four, and then John Tolkien, who defended as the left back. Then from right to left across that midfield band of four, it was Dest, again defending as a right midfielder for the second time in as many games. It was it was Berhalter on the right side of that midfield duo. Was it Morris? I forget.
They kind of rotated around. I think I had it Morris.
Boom. Yeah. Get out of jail free card. Let's go. It was Berhalter and Morris in the middle of the field, and on the left side it was Diego Luna. And then up top you had Tim Tillman and Haji Wright. Now there was some fluidity within that positioning. We saw Luna and Tillman swap towards the end of the first half, and they definitely were in swapped roles to start the second half. So some tweaks happened within that shape. I'm happy to start with Berhalter, Ryan, who was one of the players that you mentioned. His game was excellent, not just on set pieces, although it was legitimately excellent on set pieces. That goal that he scores to open things off of the free kick is
which one?
Really nice. Well, okay, so he the one where he does the wall pass with Dest is what I'm talking about.
Oh, I'm joking.
First time
because he scores the free kick off the defender and then it's called back, right? And then he gets to take it again and scores again.
How does Dest know that the routine is going to be different for the second the second take of that?
He's a mind reader, I would assume.
Is Tillman still standing in between them when he takes it? Because in the first one, I think Tillman is right. I think it's Tillman is right there. So there's three of them. And when Tillman vacates, I think that's when Dest is sort of like, hey, I'm here. Credit to him, he doesn't give it away, but he definitely cheats over pretty aggressively as the kick is about to be taken.
Great assist though from Dest. I mean, like that's the stuff that they really got to make sure they record. That's a crucial moment. It's a great goal from Berhalter, and his set piece service in other moments is crucial. Like he is so involved on these dead balls. He was taking all the in-swingers from as the U.S. are attacking the left corner flag, and Tolkien was doing the ones on the other side. His dead ball service is elite. Truly. It's a shame that the rest of his game probably isn't quite at that level. But in this game, he did so much good stuff. He was a dynamo on the ball. I thought his long switches, diagonals, especially over to Tolkien on that left side, were really nice. He drew a bunch of fouls and generally held strong against a very experienced Uruguay midfield of Darasqueta, Ugarte, and Bentancur. That's a legit midfield trio right there. That's a midfield trio that I think can make a deep World Cup run. And Berhalter looked like he belonged and then some, that he was actually better than all those guys in this game, or at least better than Bentancur and Ugarte, who was invisible in this game as far as I was concerned. I was really, really impressed with Berhalter. I think if we're talking, easy for me to say, about players that did something for their World Cup stock who were probably on the fringes of the squad and maybe advanced into the next tier above that, I think Berhalter very much did that with his performance.
Agreed. And not just because of the set pieces, sorry, Ryan, but because of that distribution you talked about, Joe, but the confidence in distribution. Multiple times in this game, he has an advancing option that is maybe going to be on if that ball is hit perfectly, but maybe isn't going to get to it. Maybe it's going to go out of bounds. Maybe it's going to leave them isolated or whatever. And there's moments when it's like Dest sprinting forward and screaming for the ball. There's one time when it's Reyna later on in the game. And Berhalter consistently makes the right choice in those moments. And maybe this is just a one-off performance, but he has one where he looks off the big switch to the right, and then I think it's like a moonball over the top to John Tolkien, who's now wide open in space, and it leads to the corner that leads to the second goal. But there are plenty of those moments where he seems to back himself to know when to play the risky pass, when to try to hit that person running, versus when to not even recycle possession, but just turn and play it forward in a different way. And I really liked a lot of that decision-making.
Yeah, he was punchy in progressing the US forward. I noted one down in the 37th minute when he really quickly plays it out to Tolkien on the left. And it wasn't the greatest pass ever made, but it was a good indicator of how quick the US were being in those moments. And I kind of thought he was a gauge for everything the US did well in this match, where there was intensity. He was willing and ready to match up to Uruguay in fighting terms, for want of a better term there, a better word. And how quick he was playing and set pieces as well. Everything the US did well in this game was in Berhalter's performance.
Well, on that, Graham, has this game actually made Mauricio Pochettino's job more difficult? Because now he's got more decisions to make with someone like Berhalter going forward.
I mean, potentially, I've got questions like, is his set pieces, are his set pieces in general, I mean, they're such a threat. Are they enough to get him... Well, I mean, first of all, are they enough to get him on the field as a starting player for the US? Second of all, are they enough to get him on the roster? It seems like possibly yes, we're leaning that way. But then I have questions like, is there a place for, this was the argument for McGlynn with his set pieces, is there a place for McGlynn and Berhalter in the team? That kind of changes the equation of, to be honest, a couple of windows ago, if you'd asked me last month, I kind of thought Seb Berhalter was trending down. It seemed like his time had passed a little bit and we were looking to other options. But yeah, his stock is majorly up on the back of this game in particular. It genuinely might be worth taking him for those deliveries. They're so good. Especially
if the US plays as aggressively as they did on the defensive side in that press, because Joe is right. A lot of these goals are set pieces, but 3 of the first 4 opportunities come from the U.S. pressing and winning high and then playing forward really, really quickly. And if that's the way you're going to play, where you're going to try to swarm them, win that ball back, and then create uncertainty, that leads to more fouls and more set pieces and more corners and the like. And so if you're going to do that, you need somebody who's going to hit the ball and clear the first man and play it to the back post to put it on Alex Freeman's head. Maybe that is Berhalter. I mean, it's a big maybe, because I still think there's talent ahead of him, but I would not, offend to say a first-teamer is ahead of him. I know that now. I don't want to make Pochettino angry. He'll come through the mic.
Steer clear. Or just offer him a lemon, sort of humbly. And don't.
This is a lime! Oh, no.
Don't shoot your wrath from your eyes at me. Another player who came up big on set pieces, and also in other moments, Alex Freeman, who I thought did a lot for his World Cup stock in this game. Part of it is maybe reminding the coaching staff for the USMNT that he can be an asset on set pieces. He's a big dude. He plays as a right back. In this game, he played as a right back, and he defended as a right back, and he possessed as that right-sided center back, though he did go forward more often in that exact same role than the one that Joe Scally showed in the Paraguay game. Part of that, I'm convinced, is because of how Uruguay defended with man-oriented defending. If you want to beat man marking, generally making runs in behind your mark is a good way to do that. So Freeman did plenty of that in this game. But he showed off his aerial ability on set pieces on his first goal, and he showed off his smooth, quick feet and in tight spots on his second goal. I think it is maybe a huge, just as it was a big game for Berhalter, I think it was the same for Alex Freeman. I think he very much continues to help his stock, in that he can play as a right-sided center back, and it seems like that's the role that Poch wants him in possession, by the way. He can do that job, but he could also be a width provider, and he also gives you more on set pieces than someone like Joe Scally does. Those two guys interpret the same role. Again, they play the same role in this window. They interpret it in very different ways. If I had to guess, I'd guess that both of them would probably be on that World Cup squad if we're actually going to build out our rosters. At least it seems that way. But big game for Berhalter, big game for Freeman as well.
Yeah, and Taylor, one of the things we spoke about on Sunday with the review show after the Paraguay game was the sort of lack of understanding between Dest and Scally on that right side, and that just wasn't an issue in this game. I thought Freeman and Dest were dovetailing really nicely. I spent the first 50 minutes of this game trying to work out what Dest's role was in attacking phases, because he was just so high and so wide, and essentially he was a winger in this game. Obviously, as Joe outlined, he was the right-sided midfielder in the 4-4-2 shape, out of possession. But then when the US had the ball, Freeman's getting high, and yeah, that might be down to how Uruguay were playing. But unlike Joe Scally, and I can do a bit of Joe Scally, I'm not his biggest critic, but Joe Scally is just not able to make the most of those opportunities in the way that Alex Freeman was in this game. So I just really liked the movement between the two of them, where sometimes even Dest would come inside as well, and Freeman would go as the wide player. Just felt like they had a much sharper understanding than Dest and Scally did against Paraguay.
Speaking of so high, am I the only one that thinks Serginho Dest? I think it's just his disposition. He frequently looks like maybe he's had an edible before he played. Like, he always just looks completely non-phased.
Was it the Rabona that did it for you?
Yes. I forgot about the Rabona, the counter-attacking Rabona. I don't know. He just is always like, okay, next thing. Here we go. It's all good.
Did anyone else find it weird? Like, when you say Rabona, it is almost always out wide, across into the middle. He does it in the centre of the pitch as like a through ball. I've just never seen anyone do that move in that situation. It's
and he
so
calls
Serginho
somebody
Dest.
off. He calls somebody off like, I got this. Like, it's
Same guy who eats plain baguettes and wears knockoff Chicago Bulls jerseys, by the way. You know, it all fits together. It really does.
I mean, you're not dispelling my theory that maybe there was an edible involved. Just eating a loaf of bread in a knockoff jersey. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Maybe people's personalities adapt to the moment. Like, is Jamie Carragher on Sky versus CBS. Maybe he's a bit more chill in a friendly for the US.
Know your surroundings.
Know your environment. Exactly 100%. That.
I mean, but he's locked down that right side now, right? Like, I mean, not that was ever really in question, but it does feel like what I come away from these two friendlies thinking is that Dest plays a lot of minutes and seems to do a lot more than, or at least have an understanding and a fluidity to that position and a confidence to play therein more so than anybody else we've seen deployed there. Certainly Weah, certainly Musa.
I think so, while also recognizing that I was still a bit underwhelmed by Dest in these games. I think he had some really fun, flashy moments where he turns out of tight spots and advances the ball. He didn't really give the U.S. anything in the final third in either one of these games. And in general in this game, I thought the area you could tell that the U.S. didn't have their, I'll say it, first-choice players was when they had like opportunities on the break in the final third. There's that lovely goal that spans 9 U.S. players, 8 passes. It's a great moment. It's the one that Luna scores. It really is so good. Uruguay have also just straight up given up. It is atrocious defending, like truly so bad. But you have some nice possession moments. I'm not trying to take that away. But Luna, I didn't think was very sharp in the final third. I didn't think Dest was very sharp in the final third. Tillman doesn't bring you a whole lot in the final third, though I think he was pretty good in this game, at least relative to what I expected. He has that crunching tackle that leads to the U.S.'s first goal sequence, right? No, it's not the first goal. It's a later goal sequence, excuse me. But I thought that was an area where the U.S. lacked in this game, and with Gio or Pulisic on the field, you probably get more. But Dest, Poch had an interesting quote about Dest after this game that Sanjay Sujanthakumar had for us at Backfield. He was talking about Dest playing higher up and basically playing as a winger effectively. And he said, we don't have a lot of alternatives of players like Serginho playing on the wing. We don't have a lot of wingers. We have a lot of midfielders, a lot of players who play in interior areas, but we don't have players who can break through the wings. And Serginho is a player who can facilitate a lot of things for us in that position. I think it's a great, very real summary from Pochettino. The U.S. has basically 0 wingers that are international quality. I mean, Pulisic is one of them, but he's also more of an interior kind of guy. And Weah is one of them, but he's also a positionless guy who's not been very good recently for the U.S. So I think Dest is going to be in that spot, Taylor, moving forward. But also, I think that Dest can show more in that spot because maybe it's not a role he's super used to, because it's not a role he plays for club, and it's a role he's basically never played for the U.S. I think the U.S. should be hoping that he gets that role more moving forward and that he looks even a bit better and more well-rounded in that spot moving forward.
Taylor, can I ask, before we hit the break, can I ask a hypothetical of you? Uruguay were poor in this game, right? I don't think we're making any mistake about that. I can't think of a good performance on the Uruguay team with all due respect to them. So if the US team that started against Paraguay started against this side, or if the first choice, what we deem to be full strength US team started against this Uruguay side, how would things have shaped up? Would it have been a similar huge margin of victory in all circumstances?
I don't want to answer. Because I don't really know, man. Because I had 3 different people message me to ask me, are we better without Pulisic? And I think Joe has outlined why the pressing and the approach against this particular opponent is more likely to be effective and why you are more likely to find openings than against any team that is defending or has numbers behind the ball and cares to defend. I think maybe some of this doesn't work as well, so that's where Pulisic is going to be more effective. It's still a fair question because it did seem to me a little bit like this was a team that knew they had a point to prove and knew that this was their opportunity to stake a claim. And I'll hold my hands up and say, I texted Joe before this game to say it feels like several of these players are about to play themselves out of contention.
I thought the same, man.
I fully thought they were going to get worked. I thought this was going to be maybe they hold on for like a 0-0 or get one on a set piece and it's 1-1 and it's an ideal result. I did not see this coming. And so it does make me wonder if there is an element of, if you don't think you're a guaranteed starter, if you don't feel like your place is written in ink, are you coming out and working that much harder? Are you pressing that much more aggressively? Are you trying as hard as you possibly can to stake your claim? I think if the players that started that Paraguay game felt similarly, I think they probably would have executed this game as well. But I don't know. It's an interesting question because to your point, it just kind of keeps opening up, I would say, good questions of who starts here now, and is this person above this person in the depth chart? I mean, even John Tolkien, for example, a player that I thought was very much out of contention or like way down that depth chart. I think what we see in this window is what happens if Jedi can't go. And I'm not saying John Tolkien is even close to Jedi Robinson. He's not. But I think for the longest time it was sort of like, well, we're just going to hope that guy is healthy, and if he's not, uh-oh. And now, at least we know Max Arfston can do some things. We know that John Tolkien in this game could do some things. So it does give us options, and I think that hunger was a difference maker. I'm not sure if I've answered your question, but that's as comfortable as I am giving an answer.
You did get to the Pulisic of it, so that was kind of where we were headed. Excellent stuff. Listener, why don't you listen to some messages about excellent goods and services you might enjoy, and when you get back, we'll dig more into this game, the individual performers, and much more. Join us then. Total Soccer Show. Hey, welcome back to our review of the glorious 5-1 win over Uruguay. Let's do some stock up, stock down to kind of look at some of the players we haven't spoken about already. Who wants to start off talking about the goalkeeper?
Never mind. Hand down.
Not Josh Freese.
Hand was up. Hand down. Hand down. I have a player I want to talk about. I'll start with Freese. It's the same, right? It's been the not even concern. It's just the little question, because it's not as though he has a howler in this game. But it feels like there are moments where I am still like, is he definitely the guy? And I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, repeating the same refrain. I just think we haven't seen that performance from him that makes me think when he needs to stand on his head, he is capable of doing it. When we need a goalkeeper to be rock solid and not give any moments of vulnerability, he can do it. And the bike in this game is incredible. It's a beautiful goal. No criticism there. But in the seconds before it, it's the one where he comes for the cross, doesn't get to it, but 2 defenders pull out of it at the same time, and there's this diffusion of responsibility. Yeah. And in that, there is chaos created. And that's one where if Tim Howard is coming to claim a cross, unless he's torn his adductor and still tries to play through it, he is getting to that ball. Brad Friedel is getting to that ball. I want a U.S. goalkeeper who's coming in, catching that cleanly, and just calming the nerves down a little bit. And so for Freese, he's still the starter. I don't see anybody replacing him, supplanting him anytime soon. But it still is just one of those little tiny concerns / medium concerns, I would say.
Yeah, Freese had kind of one big moment in this game, and he botched it, right? I mean, that's kind of how I feel. And I agree ultimately, though, Taylor, with your takeaway, which is that I don't think anything has really changed for Freese in terms of his status with the U.S., but it was a reminder that when he comes and makes a meal out of claiming that ball in the box, it's a reminder that the U.S. doesn't have an elite goalkeeper. They just don't. That's the situation. And that could come back to bite when the World Cup comes around.
Maybe that was the purpose of this lineup from Poch, was to set up some shooting practice.
Get him
for
shelled.
Freese to stand on his head. Come on, Uruguay. Play a part.
Do something.
Be better.
Maybe Freese was temporarily panicked that he thought he might have to play yet another playoff game against Charlotte. Nobody wanted
not
to do
again. Please.
Joe, anyone else in the defensive line we wanted to spotlight?
That was where my hand was raised.
Oh, go Taylor. You go.
Go on, then.
Dude, because I wanna get ahead of this one. Mark McKenzie looked good. I gotta say, man, and all the caveats we've already had about this game aside, Mark McKenzie is the center back that I think I have routinely disagreed with Joe on about. I don't know if he needs to be the starter. Let's go with a different guy.
To be clear, I also don't think he needs to be a starter.
You don't, but if we're going with a back three, I feel like, and it's our oh boy, first choice back three.
If you're running three center backs and not Scally or Freeman in the back three, McKenzie probably would have been in my back three.
Yeah, and I think that's been the case for you for a while, and I think I routinely pick somebody else or want to try something else. And I'm a lot more convinced by his performance in this one on both sides. I think he's fine to good on the ball. I think he plays some interesting passes, and then he plays a lot of safe passes, and I wouldn't expect anything more. But he's also very involved in the attack on set pieces. He's getting into it. I had to rewatch the Berhalter free kick goal a couple times to make sure that in a game with VAR, that's not getting called back for offside or interference, and I don't think it would have been. But McKenzie was not backing down from a scrap, not backing down from a physical challenge, and seemed just really up for it. Seemed to be representing the captain's armband well. He was wearing the captain's armband, yes?
See?
There you go. So I came out of this game, that's one where I've never felt like what I was talking about with Matt Freese. I feel like I've never had that with Mark McKenzie, where there's a moment when I was like, that's the game. I can kind of rest comfortable knowing that he is capable of that level. I feel like I have a better sample size now.
Yeah, I thought McKenzie was solid in this game. I thought Trusty was also solid, to maybe even better than solid in this game. Trusty's distribution with his left foot as the left-sided center back in that back three in possession was really good. I think his distribution was better than McKenzie's, and McKenzie maybe had that higher profile defensive moment, McKenzie, where he pokes the ball away in the first half, 33rd minute. But I thought both of those guys were good. I'm still skeptical, maybe that this, maybe more than anything else from this game, and I suppose the set pieces too, are going to translate in future games, especially in Trusty's case, because he had so many nice line breakers, but he was just never marked, almost never marked. And the same went for McKenzie at times in this game, where those guys were just left unmanned while Uruguay manned up behind them. And also Uruguay's attack just showed so little in this game, but positive, still nonetheless positive. I think it was a good performance from both of those players, and that's all you can do.
All right. The midfield, I think we've covered a lot of the players already. Joe, anyone else you want to, maybe Morris, talk about? Or?
Yeah, Morris, I suppose. I thought Berhalter was great in this game, best game in a U.S. shirt, maybe the best game I've ever seen him play in his career. I thought Aiden Morris was Aiden Morris, is maybe the way I'll put that, where he has some good moments, some good tackles. He's got a nice shot in the box in the first half. He also turns the ball over a little too much for me. And that's been the problem with Aiden Morris, even when he was playing for Wilfred Nancy and the Columbus Crew, is that he's just still not a sharp on-ball player. He
There's
can
a really
pass the
ball.
ball.
One. There's
one
that leads to the DRS
44th minute.
Right on the edge of the box.
Yep,
It's
leads to
so
Uruguay's
loose.
best. That's their best chance of the game, Uruguay. And it's not the bicycle kick. It's the one that happens before that, Graham. You're so right. It's a bad moment from Morris, and there's just too many of those for my liking. If I had to leave one of the midfielders, one of the center mids who played in this window, out of the World Cup squad, so that's Roldan and Tessman, who started the first game, and Morris and Berhalter. I suppose you could toss Tillman in there. I also wouldn't bring Tillman to the World Cup. I wouldn't bring Morris. I think he doesn't offer enough defensively. We've seen that time and time again for the U.S. He offers some, but not enough, and he doesn't bring you reliable on-ball ability. So it was Aiden Morris. He did some good things in this game. He did some bad things. For me, the bad kind of continues to outweigh the good. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Any thoughts on Gio Reyna getting another half hour here?
Yeah.
Nice cross.
He looks like the best player on the field whenever he's on the field, man. That's kind of how I feel about it.
It was me that said that.
Yeah,
too.
Graham's always rated him from the start. It's a positive that he was fit enough to play in this game. It's a positive that he continued to impact the game. And the biggest positive, like I said before the window started, is that Poch actually put him on the field. That's been the question for Gio. And by all accounts, Graham, I think you said this on the show with Taylor on Sunday. By all accounts, players are seemingly happy with what Gio's been putting in terms of work off the field in this camp. It's all positive stuff right now for Gio Reyna. Maybe a little bit less so for Luna in this game, who I didn't think had his best game. He tried to hit a couple of home run balls, which I appreciate, that didn't come off. In general, he just wasn't super impactful, I didn't think, on the ball. Great goal. Love it. Love these crash in the box at the right time. I'll take a goal and a quiet performance any day. But I wanted a bit more from Luna in this, not just in this game, but I suppose in this whole window.
Yeah, I didn't have a huge amount of notes about Diego Luna. That doesn't necessarily mean he was bad. Like, broadly speaking, he did Diego Luna things, and obviously finishes the fourth goal off nicely. But I just felt like he wasn't as impactful as maybe he might have been in a game like this, where there was a lot of space to exploit and a lot of other things were going really well for the US. Just moving up to the centre forward position, I kind of liked what you guys know. I'm gonna the Haji Wright defender on the show. I kind of liked what Haji Wright offered in this game, without thinking he did anything to like disrupt Balogun's place in this team. But I thought his hold-up play was good. And that's one area where, if we're ranking the number 3 striker in the pool at the moment, which, despite the fact Pepe doesn't make the field in this game.
Yeah, hold on, number 3, Graham. Are we sure?
Yeah, that's maybe a talking point, but I'll say my piece first, and then maybe we can come back on that. I still think Haji Wright is playing for that number 3 spot on the roster. And so if you're ranking those contenders, that's an area of hold-up play where I think he's clearly better than Big Pat and what he offers. So obviously no real chances fell Wright's way, but I still thought he was a positive rather than a negative. There was a couple of moments where he dropped deep and then spinned in behind really nicely. There was another moment where he gets cleaned out on the edge of the box after kind of physically holding off a Uruguayan player. So I thought he was slightly stock up from this performance.
I think that's the one, Graham, in the 15th minute. He gets crushed there, and that's the one that leads to the free kick.
That's right.
That's the goal. So in that way, he's involved. I really liked everything I saw from Haji Wright, to be honest. There's the goal that Joe mentioned, the Luna goal, like the really nice passing sequence. Haji Wright is making a sprint to the near post that takes defenders with him and opens up that space for the ball to be cut back to Luna. So he makes smart runs. He does a good job with the hold-up play, as you've said. He also defensively does a lot more work, and I noticed that when Balogun came on, because Balogun routinely stayed about 20 yards further forward than Wright, so much so that it felt to me like a deliberate instruction of like stretch them and try to hit on the break or try to do your own thing. But Wright, when he's in there, can stay high, sometimes did stay high, but often worked back and sort of worked to pin Uruguay on one side of the pitch to take away a center back option and then step in front of that center back to further cut them off. I felt like he did a lot of good defensive work, and I think that furthers his case a bit.
Anyone else to discuss? Tanner Tessman coming on and getting the goal? Anybody want to?
I thought Testament was fine in this game. I don't think he showed a ton of notable stuff, but he's a big dude. He's a big lad, and he can get into the box and create some problems there. I want to go back to the striker situation for just a minute.
Let's circle back around.
I think it's super notable that Pepe didn't play in this game. Maybe there's an injury that we don't know about. He comes off the bench against Paraguay, and Wright doesn't. So maybe there's something there. Maybe this rotation was planned from the start. But Haji Wright scored a couple of goals in the last window, and Poch brings him back in. It seems like he has earned some goodwill from Pochettino, and deservedly so, right? I mean, Pepe, I think, had some really nice moments off the bench. He looks like a good player, Pepe. I know he has that moment in the box against Paraguay that goes awry. But I still have a lot of Pepe stock, not as much as I do Balogun stock. My sense is that it's going to be those 3 guys that make it to the World Cup. The question now, that is seemingly a bigger question than I thought it was before this window started, is what is the pecking order behind Balogun? Maybe that won't end up mattering, but I think Wright and Pepe in general are fairly similar players, and maybe Haji's got more of a step on Pepe than I thought.
Yeah, if you told me before the window that Balogun would start one game and another striker would start the second game, I would have put money on that being Ricardo Pepe. So I agree, Joe, that if that's not an injury thing, that's surely some form of statement from Poch on how he views those players.
Yeah.
Start all 3 of them, I say.
Yeah.
Push them high.
Striker trio. Why not? Other guys in this game. Tim Tillman, I thought, had a decent game. Was anybody moved by Tim Tillman? He wasn't perfect. Has a couple turnovers and build up in the first 5 minutes. That's no bueno.
Yeah, dude.
But his defensive work was. I mean, I've watched a lot of Tim Tillman over the last couple of years. His defensive work, I thought, was excellent in this game and better than I've ever seen it. So he looked up for it. I'm just not moved by him as one of the half-space guys, and I'm not really moved about him playing deeper in midfield, which we didn't see in this window either. Taylor, are you moved by Tim Tillman at this stage?
No, I'm not. But I noted those like shaky moments that go back to my text to you of like, oh, well, Tim Tillman's having himself a game. But then I think he settled well. I noted that switch with him and Luna when he goes out to the left. And when that happens, I think it's him who slides in and puts in that tackle that, Joe, you alluded to earlier for the third goal, because he then like wins it hard. Nandez, I think, goes down and acts like he's been shot, assuming he's going to get the call, but he does not, because it's just a really good but strong challenge. And then Tillman plays wide. I forget who he plays it wide to, but then from there the U.S. attack really effectively, and it's Trusty who he plays wide to, and then ball to Freeman, In it goes, 3-0, lovely times. And I thought Tillman overall did the defensive job well. I thought he got involved on occasion. But yeah, no, needle not really moved for me.
All right. Needle definitely moved, though, for the USMNT in 2025. Upwards trajectory we have seen from this team, I think it's safe to say.
On that note, Ryan, I saw, and I'm taking this from Reddit. This is not my own original realization. But there was a time the U.S. beats Uruguay in a World Cup tune-up match with a Berhalter and a Reina on the pitch. Things are feeling very optimistic, and then the U.S. makes the quarterfinals of the 2002 World Cup. So quarterfinals are bust is what I'm saying. Because, May 12th, 2002, U.S. beats Uruguay 2-1. Greg Berhalter and Claudio Reina playing in that game.
Omens.
And now we have Nepo babies back in the team. It's a problem.
Omens, they're definitely real.
Yeah.
Absolutely so. I suppose one final question from me, Graham. On June 19th in East Rutherford, when Scotland do face the US in the World Cup final, how do you think the US will fare? Will they have a similar kind of press to this game? Will it be a similar lineup?
We'll need to figure out how to stop McSauce hanging in the air for like 20 minutes before he scores an overhead kick. That's the key to the game right there.
Take the tomatoes away. No tomatoes.
Yeah, that's his superpower lies.
Maybe so. Well, the US next year will have 2 friendlies in March, probably against Portugal and Belgium. The return of Ronaldo to these shores, it would seem. Well, he's been to DC. We do know that. And then 2 more games in late May or early June before the big one next summer. Very good. We're all excited. Taylor Rockwell, thank you very much for your analysis of this game and much, much more.
The same unto you, my friend. It's deserving of a lemon.
Joe Lowery, thank you very much, sir.
Hey, thanks, Ryan.
And Graham Ruthven, thank you very much for diligently watching this game, despite all the special brew running through your veins.
Special brew, man. Not done that in a while. Thank you very much, Ryan Bailey.
And listener, thank you very much for joining us on this one. We'll be back on the feed very shortly indeed. But for now, bye.